please. Councillor Erkins, let's go to you for your notice of motion at 9.3. Thank you.
So I would like to move the motion that the South Bennett Regional Council grant the community access to the Macaulay-Weir Water Reserve for a 6-month trial with the following conditions. The gate remains locked with one council padlock in place. The residents who use the road be issued with 1 key. Residents who wish to have more keys are given permission for council's locksmith to have them cut at their expense and councillor keep a register of keys issued. 10 keys then be available to the public to allow them access to the Weir Reserve. A deposit of $100 to be refunded when the key is returned, and the key is not to be held for any longer than 2 days. These people who wish to obtain a key for access are then given an agreement to sign, acknowledging that they will drive to the conditions of the road. They agree to take all rubbish away and leave nothing there. They agree they need to make their own arrangements for toileting. Dogs must be kept under control. No fuel motors on the water. They must keep to the roads. No four-wheel driving off-road and no motorbikes off-road. And further conditions to be added as identified during the trial.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Seconder? Councillor Potter, thank you. Councillor Erkins, would you like to speak to your motion further?
The rationale for moving the motion is the community have been trying to regain access to the Weir since 2013 when NAPTA contacted Council with a proposal to have the Macaulay-Weir reopened. The lock was only fitted to the gate after some vandalism and prior to amalgamation, and the public were always able to obtain a key from the Nanango Shire Council to access the Weir. Prior to the vandalism, they were actually able to go there at any time. After amalgamation, it seems the practice ceased with no community consultation. There are currently about 7 locks currently fitted to the gate, and yet emergency services do not have access to the properties. If a resident takes ill, someone needs to go to the gate and meet them to open it. A key needs to be given to each of these emergency services that may need to access the property. For example, ambulance, police, fire brigade, etc. It is said that the road is not in good order. However, it's in a lot better condition than many of our roads in our region and was only recently been graded. There are many of our roads in much worse condition, and even the road leading up to the gate is worse than the road inside. Many local roads have major damage and huge potholes are the norm. Some could be said to be described by residents as extremely dangerous. I note that a sign, damaged road, appears to be sufficient to cover council in these instances. I believe a drive with care or something similar on the areas that are of concern would therefore suffice in this instance. The current landowners are all aware that the road that travels to the Weir is a public road. While the gate has been locked, I do not believe that that road has ever actually been closed through DNR. I have had several conversations with one landowner who is fully supportive of the proposal. I've had a detailed conversation with with another landowner who did express some concerns about allowing the community to use the Weir Reserve. After I discussed my proposal with him and the fact that I was going to ask for a 6-month trial, this appeared to address his concerns. The resident that I've had conversations with and who joins the Weir has had said there are other residents out there who have had numerous visitors who make full use of the facility. This is unfair, and because it's not a private facility and all the community should have the same access as this person's guests. I believe one resident has been extremely aggressive and made several complaints to and about the previous councillor, Barry Green, when he brought the matter to council. This person has also made several complaints to other residents on the road and has written to the Mayor. In the past, this behaviour appears that it may have been rewarded by the road remaining closed. I posted a video of the area on YouTube and on Facebook and have had many supportive posts. I'll just read out a couple of the posts. This is exactly why my husband and I moved to Nanango just over a week ago. We want fresh air, walking tracks and peaceful country life. We are well versed in the Leave No Trace policy and think this would be a fabulous place to hike on a regular basis. Response 2, this needs to be open to the public. Response 3, I'm with you. Should never have been closed to the public, etc., etc. And I would have had more than 50 people who have responded with many more likes on the Facebook pages. I've also had a lot of people phone me, and I've had a lot of people contact me in my office to tell me what a great idea it is. In correspondence sent to the Council by the Nanango Tourism and Development Association in 2013, the following points were given. The Weir was built in the 1950s as a portable water supply to Nanango and surrounds and was officially opened on the 16th of July 1954. It has not been used as a source of reticulated water to the town since the early 1990s and is unlikely to be required for that purpose in future. Notwithstanding the demise of its original purpose, the Weir was, of course, built as a public utility on a publicly owned land at public cost and remains a publicly owned asset. With a wall length of approximately 100 metres, the Weir backs up a broad body of water, estimated...
Excuse me, Councillor, time.
Okay,
Thank you. Okay, further speakers. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully support Councillor Erkins. It's her division. She understands the issues. However, I just have a question. Who is going to police, for example, once they give the key out, that they drive to the conditions of the road, they agree to take all the rubbish away, dogs must be kept under control, no fuel motors on the water, there's no four-wheel driving, no motorbikes off the road. Like, who is going to check that has happened? And to get the $100 back, how's that going to work?
General managers, advice around the ongoing compliance. Thank you, GMMA.
Yeah, good question. I imagine we would have to commit resources to it, so we would have to essentially say commit a compliance officer or someone to go down and do an inspection. It's certainly something that we haven't really considered or put much thought to.
Thank you, Jim. We'll stay with you, Councillor Duff. Anything further?
Probably interested to hear Councillor Erkins' comments around that.
Yeah, we'll have that when you get to close. Councillor Erkins can address that in her right of reply. Councillor Potter.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of questions, I suppose, as follow on from Councillor Duff, through you, Mr Mayor, with regards to what would this cost us as a council to actually get that road, because I know there's a fair bit of work that probably needs to be done on that road. Also, the cost to open that whole recreation area and the cost of ongoing maintenance. And I'm thinking that some of these may have to be taken on notice. Thank you.
General Manager Meehan.
Through Mr Mayor. So I'll just highlight to council, so probably a couple of things. Firstly, without influence of debate, we're not against the motion or opening the road in any way, shape or form. The only recommendation that we would add for council, and the reason is we have a supplementary report which is in 11.6, which deals with the issue. Probably two things. We would just ask that council undertake a road safety audit for appropriate measures to subject to a road safety audit or something along those lines, Mr Mayor. The reason for that is council's got an opinion there that there has previously been closed due to road safety concerns. So to address your signage requirements and those sort of things, we would just seek an opinion to what's appropriate to open the road without trying to hold back that. So if council, so we just suggest to council, if council was to endorse the motion, Mr Mayor, we would just ask that council would just subject to road safety audit, If there was any showstoppers in that, we would come back to council and have a discussion to probably answer council's. The reason why I say that too, it just gives council diligence. If there was an incident to happen on the road, you do have a report on the table or previous opinion that needs to be addressed in some shape, way or form, if that makes sense.
In light of that, we'll come back to Councillor Potter if we need to, but General Manager Mee and Councillor Erkins, if there we said for a 6-month trial, in brackets, subject to a road safety audit, is that what you're suggesting, General Manager Mee?
Yeah, if council was to do that, and if it was operational expenditure, say that we're talking signs and lines and that sort of stuff, we would just implement that as council's wish, if that makes sense. If there was a capital works item in there because something was wrong, then we would come back to the table. So we would not look to hold up the resolution. We would just purely follow those recommendations. If there was something there, we would talk to council. So it allows the chamber to move through.
Thank you, General Manager. Other General Managers? Thoughts?
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'd also, just from a financial perspective or risk perspective, is to, and I have spoken to Councillor Erkins there, to the opportunity to review our insurance and the implications there with public liability as well. Thank you.
In that brackets, Kimberley, can we put subject to a road safety audit and insurance review? Councillors Erkins, are you comfortable with those few insertions? Who was our seconder? Councillor Potter. You comfortable with that? Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Hench and then back across to Councillor Jones. Thank
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question, and I guess directed at Councillor Erkins. I'm supportive of all of this, and obviously it was a facility well used years ago. I just wonder, like, at the 6-month time frame, and I guess we all sit here concerned about the costs, and as Councillor Duff has alluded to, how we police that, and if things start to get out of control there will be a significant cost. So would it be feasible to perhaps reduce that to the summer months for the trial period? Because 6 months will take us through until the end of June, we're into winter time. Would it be a consideration that we shorten that trial period so then we could perhaps get a better grip on just exactly what's happening there? Is that a feasible thought, being summer, Christmas period, the Easter period for argument's sake, great time where I would suspect it would be highly utilised, rather than drag it out for 6 months, and we'll have a better appreciation of what might be involved in what's going on down there and how it's policed and what the cost implications may be.
Thanks, Councillor. We'll have you address that in your right of reply. There's 2 issues there, and we'll come back to those if we could, Councillor Erkins. Councillor Jones, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Again, as everyone else, I support this. Councillor Erkins has done a lot of work, but just my concerns is the fact that there's been some questions raised here this morning, and knowing that we're on the 14th today and most of our staff finish up on Friday the 16th, and the likelihood of anything progressing through that Christmas break and getting this done, because I just think that there's a lot of stuff that needs to come back to the table, and I would hate to see Councillor Erkins, you put this forward and we didn't do everything and dot our I's and cross our T's, and you lose the opportunity to, because of something happens. I was just wondering whether or not you would be prepared to just leave it on the table until early next year for further discussion, and maybe ask the general managers, and as they've indicated with their insurance, their roads, all that sort of stuff, to really nut down into this and make sure that you've got it right, so that when you do go, you're going to be very confident that you've got everything that's going to support your proposal, because I don't think that you're going to get too much action between now and Christmas, New Year, and the time that they do have, it may give them the ability to come back and do some of that work and have a discussion in mid-January when we come back after the Christmas break. Would you be prepared just to have that conversation? Because I don't think that we're going to get anything up and approved and open gates until at least mid to late January at least anyway. I just don't think that the staff will have enough time to answer these questions that have been thrown at you today. I fully support it, but I just don't want to see, I know how much work you've done in it, I just don't want to see you go too early and give yourself the opportunity to fail.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Certainly. Wow, isn't there a long history here with this Weir? And from what I've seen, it looks like an extraordinary facility, and certainly an area that I think it's been wonderful to see the support from the community, it really goes to show that if we don't prioritise, well, we must prioritise roads, of course, but our natural assets equally hold a high value in our community. And I'm very excited about the prospect of a trial. And to be honest, I think local governments, you know, we are quite flexible and agile. However, sometimes we slow ourselves down trying to complicate things. I really like the idea of a trial. I think we'll learn a lot through the trial period. I agree the road has to be safe. I agree the insurance has to be right. You know, we already hold public liability insurance over a number of assets that we run and maintain. So I certainly think there's work to be done in that space. I really like the ideas and the suggestions put forward around a key. Kind of does remind me, and I do vaguely remember as a customer service officer back in Nanango Council days, handing out keys for a number of things. This was sort of common practice. So I think this is a really good idea. I think as local government, sometimes we've got to get better at trialling new things, learning something. This may or may not work. It may or may not be something that is seen to be providing value. It may cost us money. And it may be something that we need to review in terms of the behaviours. I certainly do hope that people do respect the Weir and they take care of the landscape, just as we do with many of our other landscapes. So in this instance, I'm supportive of this. And as for Councillor Jones' comments, I certainly agree. I can see there's not going to be a great deal of action happen quickly on this one. But I think the motion speaks more to granting a trial with some of these conditions, and there really is no tight time frame as to when this may occur. So I do feel there will be time for our staff to go back to make a plan around this motion and bring more information forward to council, which I really look forward to. So I congratulate Councillor Erkins on her efforts in terms of trying to engage the community in this discussion. No doubt she's copped a bit of a beating up as well as some praise, and you know, that's a real challenge. Quite admirable to have that bravery to start out the term, this being your first motion that you've brought to the table, and to certainly start the term with what is possibly one of the most gnarliest Nanango issues dating all the way back to 1996. I do think the way in which landholders are engaged through this trial is very important, and I do think perhaps through the work that we do, maybe that should be a condition in your agreement of the trial, is that we're actually engaging and actively seeking feedback from landholders in the area, because if there are concerns with this, we need to know about them. We need to be on the front foot. We need to be doing what we can to address them. So I really look forward to hopefully being able to meet some of our community members at the Weir in the near future.
Okay. Right, my views on this are that certainly keen to support the Nanango community. This was certainly spoken about in the last election. It's appropriate though that I do refer council. In fact, I have a responsibility to refer council to item 11.6. And Mr. CEO did mention to me yesterday to make sure that we understand that if we pass this resolution, if it's carried, 11.6 will then drop off the agenda. So I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to 11.6 at page 194. And I just wanted to read the report from the staff where the recommendation is that council maintains the lock gate at Macaulay Road to restrict general public access, with the exception of council staff and landholders, to Macaulay Weir Road beyond that location due to significant safety concerns, and continues to exclude recreational use of Macaulay Weir in reserve. Some of the implications as stated here is that the closure, restriction of access was formally considered by council back in 2012. Preliminary estimates were presented with that report. Significant safety issues exist with the approximate 4 kilometre section of unmaintained road reserve, and extensive capital works would be required to address safety considerations regardless of level of service provided. Additionally, as identified in the 2020 report to council, if the Macaulay Weir Road is open to traffic, basic recreational facilities will be required at the Weir site. Annual operational and maintenance costs will depend on the standard of road and facilities provided, usage and weather conditions experienced. The current estimated scope of work has not been assessed. In the conclusion on page 197, the staff do report that Anango Shire Council, by resolution in November 2005, closed the road under section 915 of the Local Government Act as it read at that time. It had assessed the road as unsuitable for even four-wheel drive vehicles. The road is not maintained and remains unsafe to be open to general public use. Considerable capital expenditure would be required to ensure a safe rural road standard is met. Fencing of the road would be recommended in the interest of safety and to reduce adverse impact to adjoining property owners. Fencing would likely impact current stock management practices and stock water supply. The capital cost of developing the reserve area to support active recreation is considerable, and ongoing operational budgets would be required for both road maintenance and to support the operation and maintenance of the recreational facilities and impoundment. So, in summary, I would just like council to please ensure you have considered the recommendation of the officers at page 194 in your deliberations prior to voting. Mr. Sierra, did you want to add anything further to that in terms of those two items being considered together? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, that the two recommendations are, I'll use the word contradictory. So if this first one gets up, well, then it just makes the second report surplus. So we'll knock both of them over with, or if this one goes down, well, then 11.6 would still be discussed. It's almost effectively a foreshadowed. So yeah, so if we deal with this one first and see where we go, but if it gets up, we've got one other one off the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Yeah, and look, I'll just wrap up mine. I've still got some time. I'll be relying on the staff report here. I'm concerned about the safety issues that they brought to our attention. General Manager Meehan, unless there's something you'd like to add, but this is a report that your staff have given us.
Yeah,
So you're recommending that we don't open the road for safety reasons. Can you clarify that? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So all we would recommend in 9.3, I just can't see it on the screen whether Kim's put it in. It would be subject to road safety audit. So that's from a legality point of view. To remove your risk from that, we would come back to council with a road safety audit and recommendations around that, what that looks like, and we'll get someone who's worked in this space to do that.
Yeah, thanks. Look, I'm happy to support it. If the road safety audit comes back and says that it's safe for people to travel on that road, I don't want to see us expose ourselves to liability if someone has an accident on a road that we've deemed to be unsafe. Thank you.
So we just had that in as number 5, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Mr Mayor,
Sorry.
can I move a procedural motion?
Yes, you may.
Can I move a procedural motion that we leave this lay on the table subject to a road safety audit and information report come back as far as insurances and everything else go?
We'll take that as moved. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all.